Nearly 50% of men over the age of 60 experience an enlarged prostate. But did you know there are 3 popular foods often found on the dining table, and all 3 can actually accelerate this issue? The good news is there are also 3 other foods that have the potential to naturally shrink the prostate. Many men aged 60 to 80 believe that an enlarged prostate is just part of aging. However, the truth is what we eat every day can worsen or help alleviate this condition. If you want to sleep soundly without having to make frequent trips to the bathroom, make sure you watch until the end to know which foods to cut back on and which ones can actually be your prostate's best friend. I share this information based on clinical experience and recognized medical studies. My goal is simple: to provide guidance that is easy to understand, without jargon, so you can make wiser decisions for your prostate health. Let's dive into the first food that can enlarge the prostate: consumption of red and processed meats. Fresh red meat, when eaten in moderation, can still be a useful source of protein and iron. The problem arises when the portions are excessive or it is processed into sausages, ham, or bacon. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, IRC, classifies processed meat as a Group 1 carcinogen and red meat as a probably carcinogenic Group 2A. This means that excessive consumption can increase the risk of cancer, including prostate cancer, because the saturated fat content and compounds from high-temperature cooking can trigger inflammation. A 2022 meta-analysis reviewing over 15 studies showed that each additional 50 grams of processed meat per day is associated with about a 4% increase in total prostate cancer risk. This small figure can become significant when compounded by daily habits. Imagine the delicious-looking food on the table could secretly be a small fire, igniting enlargement and, worse, causing prostate inflammation. That's why reducing portions and severely limiting processed products is a wise move. If you've noticed changes after cutting down on meat, share your experience in the comments. The second food that is equally important in potentially enlarging the prostate is high-fat dairy products, like full cream milk, hard cheese, or ice cream. Their saturated fat content can increase levels of certain hormones, including IGF-1, which is linked to prostate tissue growth. Some population studies have found that men with high consumption of full-fat milk have a greater risk of experiencing prostate enlargement and urinary tract symptoms. For example, an analysis in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed a connection between full-fat milk intake and more severe BPH symptoms. However, this doesn't mean all dairy products should be avoided. Low-fat products like plain yogurt or skim milk generally don't show the same strong link with prostate enlargement. By choosing low-fat options, you still get calcium and protein without the added burden on the prostate. Milk might feel comforting, but don't be mistaken. There's another group of foods that can worsen prostate conditions: high sugar and processed foods. We'll discuss this shortly. If you regularly drink milk, do you prefer low-fat or full-cream varieties? Write in the comments so we can see the different patterns. There's one type of food often underestimated, but it can actually put more pressure on the prostate. Let's move on to the third food that can worsen the prostate: sugar and processed foods. Soda, candy, and even white bread may seem harmless, but their effects on the body can be frightening. Repeated blood sugar spikes cause the body to become exhausted fighting insulin, eventually triggering inflammation that quietly enlarges the prostate. Imagine this scenario. You've just enjoyed a sweet ice cream before bed, only to wake up repeatedly throughout the night with the urge to urinate. This is no coincidence. Research shows that men with high-sugar diets experience more severe BPH symptoms, from increased urination frequency to the feeling of incomplete emptying each time they go. What makes it even scarier is sugar's addictive nature. The more frequently it's consumed, the harder it is to stop, and the cycle of inflammation continues. The question is simple. Is every sip of a sweet drink worth a night full of sleep disturbances? After discussing 3 foods that worsen prostate conditions, we'll move on to the brighter side, 3 foods that have the potential to shrink the prostate. If you've dared to cut back on sugar, share in the comments how you resist the strong urge to consume sugar. It could be an inspiration for other men. We've just covered 3 types of foods that can quietly make prostate problems worse: processed meats, high-fat dairy, and excess sugar. That might sound discouraging, but here's the good news: food can work both ways. Just as some choices can fuel inflammation, others can help calm it down, even supporting a smaller, healthier prostate. And this is where hope begins, with simple, everyday foods that truly make a difference. Now let's move on to foods that may help shrink the prostate, starting with the first, tomatoes and tomato products. Tomatoes are rich in lycopene, an antioxidant that gives them their distinctive red color while protecting cells from damage caused by free radicals. Research from the Adventist Health Study, 2 by Loma Linda University, shows that men who regularly consume canned or cooked tomatoes more than 4 times a week have about a 28% lower risk of prostate cancer, compared to those who do not consume them at all. This figure is significant for a population study. So just by adding tomatoes to your daily menu, you're already giving your prostate extra protection. Even more interesting, lycopene from cooked tomatoes is actually more easily absorbed by the body compared to raw tomatoes. So, a plate of spaghetti with natural tomato sauce can be more beneficial than just a fresh tomato salad. This is a quick benefit you can apply right away without needing expensive supplements. Have you ever thought that simple foods that usually garnish a plate can actually work like a small shield for the prostate? And it's not just tomatoes. Cruciferous green vegetables also have a strong effect. We'll discuss this next. If you regularly consume tomatoes, in what form do you most often raw, juice, or sauce? The next food that can help shrink the prostate, the second food is broccoli and the cruciferous vegetable group, including cabbage, cauliflower, and kale. These vegetables are rich in an active compound called sulforaphane, which has been studied for its ability to inhibit the growth of abnormal cells in the prostate. Research from the National Cancer Institute in the United States shows that men who frequently consume cruciferous vegetables have a lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to those who rarely consume them. Additionally, the phytochemicals in broccoli can also reduce oxidative stress, a condition that accelerates prostate inflammation. What's more interesting is that these benefits don't have to come from large portions. Just by adding broccoli 2 to 3 times a week, you're already giving your body consistent extra protection. It's like giving a natural break to prevent prostate growth from speeding up too fast. Now ask yourself, when was the last time broccoli was on your plate? If the answer is rarely, this might be why prostate symptoms continue to be bothersome. We'll move on to the last food, which works differently and can add a new layer of protection for your prostate. The third and final food that can help shrink the prostate is fatty fish, like salmon, sardines, mackerel, or tuna. These types of fish are natural sources of omega-3, a fatty acid with strong anti-inflammatory effects in the body. Research from the Harvard School of Public Health shows that regular consumption of fatty fish is linked to a reduced risk of aggressive prostate cancer. Omega-3 helps balance inflammation, suppress abnormal cell growth, and supports heart health, a very important bonus for men over 60. Interestingly, these benefits can be achieved simply by replacing red meat once or twice a week with fatty fish. This simple method provides a double layer of protection, not just for the prostate, but also for the cardiovascular system. Imagine, a plate of grilled salmon is not only delicious, but can also be a natural shield for your health, especially prostate health. And after understanding these 6 foods, we'll discuss common mistakes and objections often raised by men in their 60s. It's important to remember that often, men aged 60 to 80 have doubts before making changes. Some say, "I've eaten meat and drunk milk all my life. Why change now?" That's a fair question, but the body isn't the same as it was 30 years ago. Metabolism slows down, hormones change, and what was once safe can now worsen prostate symptoms. Some are also worried about losing nutritional sources. They're afraid that without full cream milk or red meat, their bodies will lack calcium and protein. The fact is, healthy options are still available. Low-fat milk, plain yogurt, fish, nuts, and green vegetables can fill that gap without adding extra strain on the prostate. And there are those who feel that changing eating habits is too difficult. However, often what's needed isn't a major revolution, but simple steps. Replacing red meat with fish or swapping sweet snacks for fresh fruit can be a light yet consistent start. What needs to be avoided is a common mistake: generalizing all dairy products, thinking artificial sweeteners are a safe solution, or hoping one superfood will solve everything. A healthy prostate comes from a balanced diet, not one magical ingredient. We've seen how 3 foods, processed meat, high-fat dairy, and excess sugar, can worsen prostate conditions. On the other hand, 3 other foods, tomatoes with lycopene, broccoli with sulforaphane, and fatty fish with omega-3, can offer natural protection. These 6 points are simple, yet strong enough to serve as a daily compass. Make these small steps an investment, not a burden. Even one consistent change can make a big difference in your quality of life. After summarizing 6 key foods for prostate health, you might be wondering, what other steps can be taken besides the effects of food on the prostate? The answer is in the upcoming videos, and you can keep benefiting by hitting the subscribe button. That way, every practical piece of information will come straight to you without having to search for it, and you'll always be one step more prepared to face health challenges.